the channel. My name is Adriel, for those of you who do not know me. It is such a pleasure to meet you. And today, I have a very special guest with me. I have my friend, Rose, who is here with me. She has been living in Paris for how long, Rose? Aren't you?
12 years.
12 years, okay. So Rose has been here for a while. Rose, you wanna give a little introduction?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Rose Reyes. I've been in Paris for 12 years, expatting, and I come from New York originally. And what do I do here? I run a VIP concierge service in Paris. I've always been in tourism. It's always been something that I love to do, helping people discover new places. So why not do it in Paris? It's the #1 visited city in the world.
Exactly, perfect. So that is why I have Rose here, because Rose has been here much longer than I have, and she is an expert at tourism. And so if we're going to be talking about what you need to know when you come to Paris for the Olympics, you need Rose. And that's my view. I need Rose. Everyone needs Rose in their life. So we're going to jump into it. What we're going to do is we're going to break down just some general things you need to know. Then we'll also be talking about some activities. And then, of course, we will wrap up with things that you need to know about the metro while you're here. So let's get into it. So let's get started with just some general information. As we all know, the Olympics are going to be coming to Paris.
Yes, they begin on the 26th of July with the opening ceremony in Paris on the Seine, and they end on the 11th of August.
Okay, so perfect. So 26th of July to 11th of August. So it is a 2-week period basically, and there's going to be a lot that is happening in the city. And so as a result, there's going to be a lot that you need to know when you are planning to come here for this.
Yes.
So we're gonna start off by talking about what is unique about Paris during this time, because there are a lot of preparations that are happening for the Olympics, and so the city is going to be changing things, frankly, even before the Olympics starts and even after the Olympics ends, there will be just a lot happening in the city. So we're gonna start off by kind of noting some of the things that are going to be unique during that time. First and foremost, the Seine is actually going to be closing right about the end of June. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they are going to close the Seine in order to prepare for the opening games. What else do you happen to know, Rose?
Well, I happen to know that part of those preparations are putting seating on the quays of the Seine.
Oh, wow.
And so you have your upper quays and your lower quays. Now, the opening ceremony on the 26th of July, if you get there early, you can have free seating on the upper quays.
Wow.
That's right. You don't need a ticket for the opening ceremony. So that's very unique and very historical, actually, because most of the time opening ceremonies are in a stadium. And so this is the first time in the history of the Olympics where they're having a opening ceremony outside with free seating for people.
That's awesome.
Now, if you want to get closer, the lower quays are going to be available for a price.
Oh, great. Are we talking 3 figures, 4 figures?
I would say
5?
It's more like a 3-figure price.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, you know, if you have 3 figures laying around, then it's going to be perfect for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Some of the other things that are really unique about Paris during this time, I mean, we're looking at about 14 million visitors coming into the Paris region for these 2 weeks. So yeah, if you put that into perspective, France in general has a population of 67 million. So 14 million is a lot for Ile-de-France. Normally, it usually has about 4 million inhabitants, including the suburbs. Wow. So 14 million people in those 2 weeks is a lot. So yeah, I would say you will see increased street closings in order to make way for people to get to events. You'll definitely see more people on the metro. And speaking of the metro,
the pickpockets.
Yes, we will have probably increased activity on that end as well. Not only that, but the prices will be going up during that time. So if you're a Paris resident and you have a subscription to your Metro card, which we call here a Navigo Pass, you're fine. But if you're coming in for the Olympics, expect those prices to double.
Yes, unfortunate, but It just is what it is.
The price of capitalism.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
And as far as the pickpockets, we will talk about that more detail a bit later, but you are really going to want to stay particularly vigilant when you are on the metro, when you are using public transit. Frankly, even when you are walking through the street, you're just going to really want to keep your valuables close to you. Don't keep wallets or anything in back pockets. You're going to want everything kind of as close to you and in a contained space where you can really keep your hands on it. All right, next up, we're going to talk about where to stay if you plan to come to Paris for the Olympics. So, Rose, do you have any suggestions on where people should stay?
Well, I would say, as we mentioned before, we've got 14 million people coming into the city. So accommodations are spare, but they are available, and you can still book things right now. So if we're talking about hotels, your best bet is to stay a little bit outside of the city, in the peripheral of the city. You'll be able to get a reasonable price as opposed to staying inside the city from a good 3-star hotel. Now, if you do want to stay inside the city, there's a couple of neighborhoods which are considered Paris. Central Paris is going to be very, very busy, but you can go just really outside of the center of Paris and find reasonable rates and hotel availability. Now, honestly, for the Olympics, all the hotels are going to take advantage of this time, so the prices will be more than the usual.
Yes.
That is true, but you can still have some good finds. My suggestion is to stay in arrondissements that are outside of the center, like the 17th,
Yes. Beautiful.
the 18th, the 19th, even the 20th. And these are all in the north part of Paris. If we look at inside of Paris on the south side, look at staying perhaps in the 15th,
Okay.
the 14th, and the 13th. These are areas that are off the beaten path, mostly residential, a lot of locals, but they have great hotels. They have some chain hotels as well as some independent hotels too, so might have some good finds there and some good availability.
Exactly. And then Airbnb is, of course, always an option. However, again, the capitalism system is, the wheels are turning when it comes to
Yes.
Airbnb accommodations right now.
Yes.
Prices are very, very high. So a lot of French landlords actually are keeping their apartments vacant. They are not bringing in new tenants for the summer so that they can rent it out to you at an exorbitant rate for the Olympics. So that is also another option.
Now, a lot of people ask me if there's alternatives to Airbnb, and there are, but I would be wary of anyone that you would be reaching out to individually. There are people putting out ads, just classified ads. I would be very wary of those that, there could be a lot of scams going on during that time. Another alternative to Airbnb is Vrbo. You've
Yes.
heard about Vrbo? VRBO. That is the European Airbnb, and they have a good amount of accommodations available still during this time.
Yeah.
So again, prices will be higher, so the earlier you book, the better for you.
One thing I want to note concerns something called QR codes. The city of Paris is basically requiring that residents who live near Olympic venues have QR codes to prove that they live in that area and have a right to kind of be behind any police barricades. One thing, however, I will note is that if you are staying in an Airbnb or similar type accommodation, you may want to talk with whomever is renting to you regarding whether or not you will need a similar QR code or some other sort of proof that you are allowed to be in that area. Because the worst thing that could happen is you show up and your Airbnb is in fact real, but you can't get to it because you have no proof that you are supposed to be in that area. I want to assure you the security is going to be very, very high, and particularly if you do not speak French, do not expect the police officers to be giving you lots of time and patience to help you figure out what's happening. No, 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 you're going to want to know ahead of time before you arrive. So make sure to talk with whomever is in charge of that rental to find out if you're going to need any sort of QR code or other proof that you are supposed to be there.
Yes, but yeah, that's exactly right. Paris is going to be divided into these zones, and heavy traffic zones are going to be red zones on the map. They're going to have increased security, and they're going to be looking for that QR code. So you'll be coming home from something, and you really just want to go home. And it'll take you longer than usual to get there. So you want to make sure that you have everything ready that you're supposed to have so that you can get at home, whatever that is, home to a hotel or otherwise, as quickly as possible. And getting around during that time, yes, you're going to have your QR code, you're going to have heavy security. There's going to be some metro stations that might be closed for various reasons. And maybe it'll be temporary while, looking for crowd control. And so just be ready with your metro map so that you can have alternate ways to get home.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And we will talk about transportation a little bit later in this video, and I'll also make sure I give you any links to kind of the Metro website and whatnot that might be helpful for your trip.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the main event, the Olympic Games, and also some other activities you can do if you're not actually attending any game activities. So first and foremost, one thing to know is that a lot of the Olympic sites are actually occurring in Paris, right? So they're going to be kind of all over Paris in various arrondissements. But then there are also a lot of venues that are outside of Paris. And Rose, what do you have to say about those?
Yes, well, yes, Paris is obviously the center of a lot of the great activities, but you'll see that we'll have surfing will be taking place even outside the country of France, the main country of France. Yeah, metropolitan France. It's going to be in other French territories, like Tahiti. Then we have.
That sounds like a lovely vacation.
Doesn't that sound great? Let's see some surfing. Yeah.
What a volunteer.
But we have, for example, basketball is always a very, popular activity to attend during the Olympics. We have that split up between Paris and Lille, which is in the north of France. Now, lucky for you, if you get tickets to the women's basketball team, you can still take a 1-hour express TGV train up to Lille and get your basketball game on.
As Rose said, you can take the TGV to these various cities to partake in these other game activities. I know that there are going to be activities also in Marseille, I believe also Nice. So there's just a lot of places. You can use this as an opportunity really to visit France. Go on your little French cultural tour just in 2-week period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are many tickets that have been released. After a lot of stops and starts, there's plenty of tickets for various activities and games and competitions. So have a look at your Olympic official website, 2024 website, and you'll see there's even break dancing this year.
There's break dancing?
Yeah, that's a new category of Olympian effort. And it does take place in Paris. This I would like.
Okay,
this is what I would love to see.
This
I would love to see.
There are also, I found out through this, that there are going to be places you can view events. So for example, there is going to be a place where if you can't go to Roland Garros, you can view Roland Garros in essentially like a museum type space. And so they're doing a lot of things like that. So you can still be part of it, even if, for example, you didn't get the ticket to go sit in Roland Garros Stadium. You can be a part of a community in a space where they're going to have everything that's happening at Roland Garros there. Yeah,
usually for the actual, French Tennis Open, they'll have screens on the Champ de Mars in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
This time they're going to have an Eiffel Tower stadium.
I can't wait. Okay, so next up, let's also talk about what you can be doing if you are not actually going to be at an Olympic event the whole time, because I assume you may want to see just a little bit of Paris while you're here. Just teeny tiny bit. So obviously there are lots of the quote-unquote standard activities. Go to the museums such as the Louvre, Musée d'Orsay, etc. Go visit the catacombs, which I have to say, considering the Olympics is in Paris and it's at the end of July, it might be kind of hot. So it could be a little refreshing underground in the catacombs with all of the bones. But there are also a lot of other great activities. There is Atelier Lumière, which is a really fun kind of immersive art exhibit. So there is a lot that you can see and do in Paris during this time. What else do you think could be something, people could do, Rose, maybe even some non-touristy, quote unquote, considered touristy activities that people might find fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best things about Paris is that it's such a walkable city.
Yes.
And one of the things that you can do for absolutely free is have a great little walkabout in the Paris. My favorite neighborhoods to explore by foot are Montmartre. Hills, stairs, churches, squares.
Everything.
Yeah. It's a little bit of everything, and it's kind of like the Paris that we see in the movies sometimes,
Yes.
Another neighborhood that's great to explore is the Marais.
Yes.
The Marais in French translates to swamp, because this was actually swampland before, and with landfill it became one of the most coolest neighborhoods in Paris right now.
And most expensive.
And yes, one of the most expensive neighborhoods. People go there for lots of different reasons. It's an old Jewish neighborhood.
Yes.
It's also the epicenter of LGBTQ and all the other letters. And they live somehow in this great harmony. And of course, the best thing about the Marais is shopping.
Hands down. That's one of the great parts about the Marais.
You'll find some chain stores, but you'll also find some of the most unique French designers there. We'll have their ateliers there, and you can find some pretty one-of-a-kind pieces as you're walking around enjoying the neighborhood. So those are two neighborhoods that I like. Other activities that you could do, obviously, museums are great. If it's a rainy day, that's a great thing to do, is to go. We have more than 115 museums in Paris, and some of them are even free. For example, did you know that the Perfume Museum from Fragonard is free?
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I walk by that all the time.
It's a fabulous museum. It gives you the history of perfume that was created by the French.
Oh, okay.
And then you can also, at the end, you can make your own perfume.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I need to go.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Louvre. It's the Louvre.
It's the Louvre.
Yeah. I mean, it can be overwhelming. I'd recommend doing just a highlight tour of that. And luckily for folks, I can arrange that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I do as a concierge here is that I offer different and unique ways to visit things that are time and true in Paris. And I would say a 2.5-hour highlight tour of the Louvre is fantastic. Otherwise, it could take you a week to see the entire Louvre, and you don't have that kind of time, right? So 2.5 hours is great. You'll see all the highlights, including Mona Lisa. We also have the Orsay, great center for impressionistic work. They have a great amount of impressionists in the Orsay. New and modern and super cool to go see is the Louis Vuitton Foundation.
Yes.
It's a beautiful museum set in the Bois de Boulogne, which is kind of like our Central Park.
Basically.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful building designed by Frank Gehry. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's unique in the way that it only usually sponsors just one exhibition and takes over the entire museum. So that's pretty neat and very unique about them. Yeah. But otherwise, there's other things. If you're coming to the Olympics with kids, you're probably wondering what to do with your kids. My top recommendations are to take them to the Jardin d'Acclimatation, which is right next to Louis Vuitton, as a matter of fact.
Very true.
This is a beautiful park that has rides. It has amusement park rides. It also has a mini animal menagerie and tons of events going on during the day. They have a family ticket for under 50 euros, and that makes a day at the park really easy with your kids.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Looking for something less sprawling, I would go to the Jardin des Plantes. The Jardin des Plantes is great. They also have a little zoo menagerie, a garden with a carousel, and it houses some of our natural history museums, which are great things to do with kids. Some things that are kind of off the beaten path, next to the Jardin des Plantes, we have the Grand Mosque.
Ooh.
This is a beautiful building. And it is open to the public for certain hours every day, and you can even have your mint tea in the garden.
That That's the best part.
That's the
Mint
best
tea.
part. And across the street is a beautiful Moroccan restaurant that has wonderful specialties.
Oh yes.
Including couscous, which is voted by UNESCO French heritage.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, couscous.
Know that. Would have thought it was coco vin or something like that.
Exactly, right? But some of the things that you could do are not just even in Paris. I mean, if you're in Paris, you could do a lot of day trips too.
Right.
Yeah, you can go to Versailles.
Yep.
You can go to Chantilly. The castle there is really beautiful as well.
You can go to Giverny.
Yes.
Where Monet's house is.
Absolutely.
Love Giverny. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a great day trip from Paris.
Yeah, you can even go to the Loire Valley for the day.
Yes.
Yeah, you can visit up to 2 castles and have a wine tasting in the Loire Valley, which is just a short ride on the train from Paris. So these are some great ideas to, if you need to get out of the city, you need to get out of the crowds.
And you may.
You may need to do that. These are some good ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, further afield, you can go take the train up to Normandy. You could do that in a day. It's a little tight, but it's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah, you could visit Mont Saint-Michel. It's beautiful abbey
Absolutely
on
stunning.
top of a hill.
Yes.
On a little island. It's the thing out of movies.
Yes,
right?
it's truly gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I offer my services to most people who would like to not plan their itinerary themselves. This is where I come in, give them suggestions. I give them a day-to-day itinerary, and then I book it all for them.
Okay. That's what I need on my trip. So next up, we're going to talk about transport, because obviously if you're going to be here, you're probably going to need to take public transport at some point. So first and foremost, I want to note that you are always going to need a ticket if you plan to take the metro or the bus. When it comes to the bus, at least you can buy tickets on the bus. The only issue is that they are a little bit more expensive. Instead, what I would recommend is that you purchase a bunch of tickets when you are in the train station. Now, one of the simplest ways to do this is to see if you can buy what's called a Navigo Easy Pass. This type of pass is really great. It's a way for you to hold all of your paper tickets, which is generally what we have here, on that card. One of the great things about it is that you can just tap it and go. One of the things that happens with the paper tickets that you will buy in the machines in the metro is that they are often demagnetized by your phone, your keys, the mere fact that you exist. They just all of a sudden don't work. And so it can be really frustrating at times to have those on you, and that's why I always recommend that people consider investing in one of the Navigo passes that allows you to carry your paper tickets. Now, if you can't do that, if you happen to be at a metro station that does not sell that type of pass, then you are going to need to purchase paper tickets. You really need to be careful if you're going to have paper tickets. For one, you have to hold that ticket the whole time that you are in the metro. So from the moment that you enter until the moment that you leave. You have to absolutely always filter it through the metro machine. And then what I strongly recommend you do is that you flip it over and make sure that the date and the time are stamped on it. You might be demanded by a representative to show your ticket, and if you are, and the reverse side is not stamped with the current date and time, they are going to give you a fine. Now, Rose, what else do you think that people need to know about the metro?
Well, I think the most important thing is, once you get yourself sorted out with a map, and you could also Google your destinations, you'll realize very quickly that there are a few metro lines that are affected during the Olympics. For example, all of the lines, for example, Metro Line 1, which is the one that crosses from east to west and is in central Paris and connects you to all of the attractions, that one will be closed.
Wow.
For the duration, yeah. So you can't count on the most important line to get you anywhere, but you'll have to use some of the ones that leave you approximately close by.
Right.
So I have a list here. The metro lines are numbered, the ones that are in the city, and the ones that go out to the suburbs are lettered. But metro lines 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 That's the majority of the lines.
That's the majority of the
Yeah, they, depending on the site of the competition, they may be affected, but they're still running. Yeah.
So you may get like part of your way there and then like, oops, gotta change to a different line.
Exactly. Metro Line 1 is the one that's going to be pretty much affected because it will be closed, and some of their stations may be closed even after the Olympics for what I call the afterglow.
Yes.
The afterglow of the Olympics, yeah.
The cleanup process and the refresh process.
We also have a tram system in Paris.
Yes.
This is fairly new in the last 10 years. We have at least 9 or 10 tram lines, and some of these are going to give you access to some of the venues. For example, taking a tram out to get as close as possible to the stadium out in Saint-Denis, which is the Stade de France, which is very well known. There's going to be a couple of competitions there, obviously, and it may be affected. Like, in other words, you may have to get off at the stop before your stop because the stop of the stadium will be closed for security reasons.
Absolutely.
So
you're just really going to be mindful. I would strongly recommend that you download the app City Mapper and that you use that to help navigate during this time of the Olympics. They keep information, they're constantly updating their information on City Mapper. I've always found it to be actually very reliable. So even, for example, sometimes when you get to the bus stop and it says the bus is out of service, City Mapper will say like, oh no, the bus will be in service in 8 minutes. So you still wait, and 8 minutes a bus shows up. So that'll be really great to have. There's also an application that the City of Paris provides as far as transit, and they give constant information and constant updates. You can pair it with Google Maps, but I will note Google Maps will get you lost on the little small streets in Paris.
yes, they're not really good with these streets or alleys or passage.
Yes, lots of anything small and wiggly, Google Maps gets lost with it, and that's most of Paris. So, yeah.
Pretty much.
Let's say you're in a hurry and you want to take an Uber or a taxi. What do you think, Rose? Ubers, taxis? Should we do it?
Well, my vote is always for public transportation because Ubers don't, and taxis themselves, they don't necessarily save you time in Paris. Paris is very well known for its gnarly traffic, especially during rush hour, which is anywhere between 7 and 9 a.m. and 5 and 7:30 p.m., more or less. So I would try to avoid, Ubers are great if you have an account. It does work here.
Yes.
And if it's outside of those times. But, during the Olympics, I would imagine that there's going to be heavy traffic everywhere as people move around. Did we mention the 14 million people that were expected in Paris? So what happens is that you just spend your time in the back of a car, and it'll be a much more expensive ride because, mark my words, Uber drivers will be charging more during this time.
100%.
They'll blame it on the Olympics, and it'll be a surge rate.
Everything will be surged during the Olympics.
Everything will be surged during that. Now, to talk about the taxi parisien, this is our old-fashioned taxi system. Can you flag one down on the street?
Good luck.
Good luck. You can, and sometimes they will stop for you if you are going in the right direction.
Yes.
Unlike other cities, here they do have the right to refuse a fare if you're not going in the area that they would like to go to.
Yes. And they will refuse you, trust me. I've had taxi drivers be like, no, I'm not stopping for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can also refuse a fare if you're not able to pay in cash. This is their preference. But all of them have like those handy smartphone things that will charge your card with a swipe or a tap. So that's really not an excuse. It's just, that's what they want to do. But definitely Taxi Parisien can sometimes be cheaper than Uber.
Yes.
But it does require a level of French. So if you've got it, then I would say go for it. If you absolutely need to have a car because you have someone with you that really cannot do metro stairs, or you don't have a good sense of how to take the bus, Uber it is. A lot of drivers do speak English. And another taxi service that doesn't get a lot of publicity but is really, really reliable is the G7.
Yes.
The G7 taxi service is a private company. Yeah. They act kind of like a regular public taxi, but they're kind of more like an Uber. And you can order them in advance online. And you can ask for an English-speaking driver.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
And they have an application as well that you can
Yes.
download, and you can reserve your trip with the application and pay through the app just like you would do with Uber.
You may have some applications coming from home. If you're coming from America and you use Lyft, that does not work here.
No.
If you're coming from other parts of Europe and you use Free Now, that does work here. And that's another application that you can use. Bolt is also another app that works here as well. And trust me, Uber drivers are also Bolt drivers, are also Free Now drivers. They just changed the little sign on their car. Sometimes they don't have a sign at all. It's just the same car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Last but not least, what we're going to talk about are the French customs that you are going to need to know for your trip. There are a lot. There are a lot of French customs. And the thing is, I think one of the things that happens is that people often find some of these things to be off-putting. They can't fully kind of understand what is happening because maybe, say, you walk into a store and for some reason no one helps you, and so then you leave with the impression that everyone is rude. No, really, it's just different customs that you need to be aware of when you are going to be in the city. And so we are going to give you some of those, some of the top ones that we have seen, and I will start with number one. Say bonjour. Say bonjour every time you walk in someplace, every time you go into a store, approach someone to talk to. In English, I think we say excuse me a lot, right? Like we say excuse me.
Yes.
That translates to excusez-moi. That is not the same as bonjour. I have said excusez-moi to someone before and they've turned to me and said bonjour. And it's like, well, I was getting to the bonjour and your back was turned to me. So this is why I say you want to start with bonjour.
Yes, you want to definitely start with bonjour. It is not only a greeting, but it is kind of like an excuse me, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
And the French are very adamant about it. You could say bonjour as also hi, hello, even if it's, evening onset. There are some French people who will say bonsoir to your bonjour. And this is their passive-aggressive way of correcting you that it is past 6 o'clock and we're going to be saying bonsoir, good evening. Nonetheless, I think it's really important to say this. It's the opener of any conversation, especially if you're going to be asking them for help. But some of the other things, obviously, please and thank you. French
Merci, s'il vous plaît.
Merci and s'il vous plaît. These will come in very handy. We say s'il vous plaît because we're addressing people that we don't know, so they're not familiar to us. And French is one of those Latin languages that has a familiar and a formal.
Yes.
So we treat everyone that we don't know with a formal, and we are vous-vouing them. That's what it's actually called. And, a lot of people want to say you're welcome, and there's lots of different ways of saying you're welcome.
Yes.
For example, if you say merci to someone you're at a store or at a restaurant and they've rendered you a service, most likely they're going to say je vous en prie.
Je vous en prie.
Yeah, which is kind of like you're welcome.
Yes.
If someone asks you for directions on the street and you give them to them and they say merci, you can say je vous en prie. You've rendered them a service.
Yes.
The more familiar you're welcome could be de rien. Another way to say that is il n'a pas de quoi. It was nothing.
Really? I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay.
French, it takes a while to get the hang of it, but it's really useful when you come to France, even if it's just for a little visit during the Olympics, to stretch that muscle and use your little French. What happens is that I think they really appreciate the effort.
Yes.
Yeah, if you just come out the gate speaking English like, like, excuse me, I need to, you're probably 9 times out of 10 you're going to get someone who's not going to answer your question.
Yes.
They're going to think you're rude and they will be rude to you.
Yes.
But definitely making an effort by coming in and saying, hey, bonjour, excusez-moi, je voudrais, I would like, merci beaucoup, thanks a lot.
Yes.
These are all going, and most French people are speaking some English.
Yeah.
So when they see that you're a foreigner, they will switch to English in order to make your life easier. They would just like to make it, for you to make that effort.
Yes, and
Yeah.
really it is about, you can start the conversation with a bonjour, and then you can ask, do you speak English?
Parlez-vous
français?
Parlez-vous anglais?
Parlez-vous anglais, right? You don't parlez-vous français.
Parlez-vous anglais? And if they say yes, they will switch immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they just appreciate, as Rose was saying, they appreciate the fact that you started with the bonjour. They appreciate
Sure.
the fact that you're trying, because that really is a sign of just respect and acknowledgement that you are in their country and you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And they really value that. So as far as any other cultural things that you think that people need to be aware of, I would say eating hours.
Yes.
Eating hours are a big thing here.
Yes.
Lunch is from when? Like noon to 2?
Yes. Well, France, up until about 20 years ago, they used to have, the pause at midday for people to have lunch, to have siestas. This is really no longer the case, but there are many, many businesses and restaurants that are actually closed in between meals. Part of the reason is to give their workers a rest, which is nice, but also to restock and prepare again. Because unlike many restaurants that are continuous service, they actually prepare everything that you're going to eat fresh. And so you may go to a restaurant, for example, for lunch, they may have the specials of the day, and these are the things that they bought at the market that morning, which are fresh and available. But there's only a certain number of these things. And so very often, like halfway through the lunch service, we're out of this. Well, they only bought so many of that at the market so that it's fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's many restaurants that are open throughout the day, and we call those service continu.
Yes.
Service continu means that you can have food throughout the day. Also, like in many places, fast food is a thing here now.
Yes, it is.
And French fast food can be any number of things. It could be an American brand that you may know.
The McDonald's is actually quite good.
Yes, because it's using fresh
Yes.
fresh ingredients from France, French potatoes and French chickens.
Yes. Sorry,
and
that
French
was my
beef.
phone.
Yeah. So, but there's, try some other French. What have you tried that's like a fast food? That's French style.
So to me, I think that McDonald's is fast food, but French people tell me that it's not. What they tell me is fast food are the little pre-prepared sandwiches that you can buy in the supermarket. They told me that is fast food, because whenever I say, oh, McDonald's, they're like, bah non, c'est McDo, c'est pas grave, okay.
You did that so well. Yeah, McDonald's is considered like a sit-down meal, but fast food in France can range from sandwiches and salads that are prepared in advance, and you can pick those up in your local supermarket. They're not very expensive, and sometimes they even have a formula where you can get a sandwich, some chips, and a can of something to drink, a bottle of water. But also other types of French fast food can be kebabs.
Yes.
And kebabs here are hero meat. Meat on a stick that turns.
That's delicious.
And they'll put that in a pita or some sort of pita-like bread. And that's considered fast food here. And some of the more exciting fast food, and trust me, I think we need to do some more research. We have French tacos.
Oh.
Yes, I can tell you're not a big fan of French tacos. French tacos have nothing to do with Mexico, by the way.
There was an egg on it. There was a runny egg on it. That's not a taco.
Yeah, the French like to put an egg on everything, even on pizza.
Yeah.
So pizza's considered fast food, and there are many versions of a pizza pie that will have a runny egg on top of it.
Yeah.
We don't know the origin of this. I don't know why this happened. It's like, how there's this expression in the States, put a bird on it? This is kind of more like, put an egg on it. Anyway, but we digress.
Yes.
The French taco, going back to that, it actually comes from Lyon, that gastronomic area. Yes. The king of gastronomy in France is in Lyon, known for wonderful charcuterie and wonderful bouchon, the restaurant where you can get just pots and pots of meat stewed to your delight. But tacos came from Lyon, and these used to be sold at kebab places.
Wow.
Yes, and the French taco includes chicken or beef or any kind of other meat. The secret to the French taco is a sauce. It's like made with Gruyere cheese and a couple of other choice items.
Okay.
That's the secret. And when you look at it, it kind of looks like a panini / burrito.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really
so
looks like
it's
that.
an acquired taste. And the famous fast food brand Otacos is coming from the fact that, the guys in the hood, they'd be like, so where are you at? And they would be like, I'm at, Otaco. In other words, I'm at the kebab place getting a taco. So nothing to do with Mexico.
So I will also note, just aside from just fast food, I think that Paris has amazing Italian dishes as
That's
well.
true.
Like pasta, because, we're
so
right
close.
next to Italy.
Yeah, we're a 2-hour flight from most of Italy, from Paris. So definitely try Italian food in Paris. I have a couple of favorites. My favorite pizza is coming from Il Lombardi in the 5th arrondissement. It's close to the Pantheon.
It's very good.
It's a very, very good. It's run by a mom and her sons. Can't get more Italian than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Another great chain for Italian food is Pink Mama.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
They're part of the
Big Mama group.
The Big Mama group, and they have a couple of restaurants. But my favorite is Pink Mama because it's up in Soapy, South Pigalle.
Which is a great area. And
It's a great area.
And I'm sure you have seen this restaurant probably on social media somewhere because everyone videos it.
Everyone videos it. It's really beautiful, but the food is really good.
The food is very, very good.
But you're probably asking yourself, where do you get some really good, authentic French food?
Yeah. I would say if you want the most authentic, you find a really good kind of French brasserie that makes their own homemade fries, and you order a croque monsieur.
Wow. Yeah, I mean
I feel like
that's
like,
very that's very French.
That's like very French. A croque monsieur avec a salade or croque monsieur avec frites.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my opinion.
I think that's a great lunch. Yeah. There's so many restaurants where you can have like real classic French food, and you may ask yourself, like, what is classic French food? Is like a beef bourguignon,
Yes.
right? Which is like a beef stew. Those are delicious, and you'll get those in most brasseries, and even at the local tabac. The local tabac is kind of like a place where you buy your cigarettes, your candy, and your newspaper, but most tabacs will have an actual brasserie attached to them.
Yes, they do.
And they are not very expensive, and the food is very good, and you can get some of those classics there. You can get French onion soup.
French onion soup.
That's
is
very
delicious.
French.
It's very French.
Yes.
It is not called French onion soup in France. It's called soup d'oignon.
Soup
just so
d'oignon.
you know.
Yeah. If you're looking for a good steakhouse, my favorite off the Champs-Élysées is Maison de Aubrac. They're open late, and you can make a reservation online, and they have some of the best steak I've ever had.
See, Rose knows everything. Y'all see why she's here with us today, because I'm sitting here like, I need to take some notes.
Yes. Come travel with me, and I'll send you my secret list of my favorite restaurants in France.
One of the great things about Paris is that there are it's hard to go wrong here when it comes to food.
When it comes to food, we have so many choices,
Yeah.
so many cultures. We have Vietnamese food, we have Tibetan food, we have a lot of Chinese, we have a lot of Japanese food.
Yep.
We have everything from all over Europe. If you want to try to be really adventurous, try Corsican. Yes, Corsica is part of France, metropolitan France. It's an island on the south of the country, and the Corsican food is absolutely wonderful.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll have to try that. Mm-hmm. Okay, everyone. Well, that is it. I hope you've enjoyed this video on what you need to know if you are coming to Paris for the Olympics. And frankly, even if you're coming a little bit before or a little after, I believe some of the tips from this video are really going to help you. And thank you so much to Rose, our special guest, for being here today and sharing her extensive knowledge of Paris. I would not have been able to do this video without you.
Well, you're very welcome. Very welcome. Really, you know, it's one of the most enjoyable things that I do now here in Paris is to welcome people from all over the world, but mostly from North America, and basically being able to help them plan their dream itinerary in their dream destination. Not just Paris, but most of Western Europe and the UK as well. These are wonderful vacations that we plan here and at Roseworks VIP Concierge. And it's my pleasure to answer all these questions and to give a little bit of insight to the City of Light during the Olympics.
Well, thank you again so much, and thank you all for watching. I hope that this video has been helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions in the comments, but definitely, as always, respond to all of your questions, all of your comments. Take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye!